welcome to another episode with Woodward's Watercolours. I'm Colin Woodward, and here I am in my lovely little studio. My candle's lit, I've got my comfy slippers on, I feel comfortable in what I'm wearing. If you weren't here, I would have just some nice chilled out music, and don't underestimate how important the environment is and all those things are that become actually quite conducive and important to being creative. Well, in this episode, we're going to look at doing a night scene in watercolour and ink. Because if you're doing a night scene with watercolour, you're going to have to think about it and do it quite differently than you would in other media. We're going to have to be the painter with a plan, and we're going to have to think out the different steps that we're going to take. So come with me, we're going to draw out the scene, and then we're going to paint it, and we're going to tackle doing a night scene in watercolour. Okay, so you can find the reference image on the community section of my channel. What we're drawing with tonight is my Unipin pens, my little set of 5. I've got my 350 GSM Seawhite of Brighton A4 paper. I've got my masking tape, so I'm going to tape this down and then we're going to start. So this scene is really quite a sort of a 1970s feel of a building. It's actually in Stranmillis University in Belfast. And it's the view that I have every time I leave in the evening after the watercolour class. So what we're going to start with first of all is I've got a variety of different pen sizes here. They're all higgledy-piggledy, 0.5, 0.2, 0.05, 0.8 and 0.1. So I'm going to start with the 0.1. The 0.05 is a little bit too thin and flimsy for me for this one. So I want to draw really quite nice and freely. So I'm just starting on the left hand side, and I'm not going to be too careful now. What I do sometimes is I'll try and get almost like a dot to dot to get the angles a little bit. It's not a very attractive building, but what we're looking for with this is that we are getting the feel of a building at nighttime. Now this is really actually at dusk, so I'm just trying to, it's hard to talk and try and get the angles right. So I'm just trying to get the basic shape of this building here, and it's a really odd shape, isn't it? There seems to be lots and lots of different sections to it, and we're going to leave that bit on. We're going to edit out that other part of the building there, but we do want to give like the hint of the trees that are coming through and different feel that they have, and just giving an indication that they're actually there. And I'm really keeping this nice and rough. I don't want this to be too pristine an image. And there's also a car in there which I'm not overly fussed on having, and so we're just going to get some of the bushes and things in here, which is going to be a really dark shape. So as you're just doing the drawing, you're just going to kind of notice different things about it. As I said, I'm going to edit the car out, so we're going to have to make some assumptions as to what is actually in certain sections. So I'm just going to really put this line down for my own benefit. And then we've got this tree that's coming down and a bit of a bough kind of poking out there, and we're going to just sort of give a hint to that tree that it's there. Okay, so I've done that. Now what I want to do is try and capture the fact that there is a little sort of slit of windows there. Okay, and then also there's another, I'll take it a wee bit more below. Now I can have the luxury of really just changing where I have that line, because this is all you'll see what will happen with the way that I'm going to tackle this. So I'm just really trying to get the gist of shapes that are going on here. That wasn't good, headbutted the tripod there. Okay, put another line in there, another line in there. Okay, and then we've got some quite interesting shapes happening down here. So as I'm doing this, it's a really good recce, if you like, to try and figure out what
is actually happening in this picture, where the light's falling, where I want to capture it, all of those different things. Okay, so then we've got, it's really quite a severe perspective. It needs to track the shape of the window there. So we're just gonna add here, and then we're gonna have another light source happening there. It is again quite, so the angle is really quite severe again, so it's just trying to track that and track where the lines are. So some of these windows are illuminated and others aren't. So we're just getting the basics in. Okay, and then we've got some more shapes happening here. So the perspective changes, obviously, the closer as it moves from the top down to the bottom. And then we've got this ugly kind of structure of antenna that's happening there. I love including all those little ugly bits because they're still so much part of the building. And it's really easy to ignore those things, and yet actually in ignoring them you really ignore so much of the building that's there, you know. So just want to capture those in. I'm a sucker for the majesty in the midst of the mundane, you know, for just capturing what's actually there. Okay, so we're just going to move down this building. Just trying to get all the different shapes of the windows and what's going in. And there's also big dirty great light coming down there. There's also some things happening in there in that window. So we're just basically getting the structure in here, finding out what's going on. At first glance, often buildings can seem really simple. And then the more that you get into drawing them, you start to realize that there is actually a lot more going on there. So that's what's happening now. Just getting these shapes in here. And also what I'm doing is I've gone across that line. So let's extend that building down a little bit so we can ignore that initial line that we made there. And hopefully as well, what I want you to see is how fluid this is. So I'm not making any decisions as to whether I've done a stellar job here in this. I am just trusting the process, and I am keeping going with the process, and I'm making no judgment at this point. I'm making changes left, right and center, and just correcting it as I need to. Even though this is in pen, I find this really very liberating about pen. People, on the whole, I think we've been taught, you know, there's signs all over the place in our school that say, draw a light until it's right, and all these sorts of things. And actually, I find using something that is not going to be removed is incredibly liberating, because you have to just roll with the punches on it. Sorry, I'm just trying to get this line here, and then the same goes across again. It's in similar length, and then it's much smaller to that end there. Okay, so then we've got these windows here. So I am just getting in the detail here that I want to really effectively capture, and moving this along. Let me see, just trying to position that right. And it's something similar again here, and again across here, and again here. So we're just following the uniformity of the building. And then there's like just a kind of visitors almost entrance here, and some of it that I can't see is due to that van being there, but we're just going to make it up and make some assumptions about that. Okay, and then also there's another section of those windows there. Okay, this is the point where I get to on the drawing where I'm kind of ready for it to be done. Okay, so that's the basic structure of the building that we want. Now, I love this bit where I'll go and get the 0.8, which is the thickest that I have here. And in that, there's another tree there, but I think what we'll do is we'll just leave that mass of the bush there, just to give us some sort of bearings. Now, what we also want to do is these are connected here. It's one of the ugly features of the 1970s building. Okay, and I love this bit because it's where it brings a kind of a sense of definition. And in observing those darker points, then it just kind of brings it to life that wee bit more. I'm going to draw that line straight down, and also give a hard line to the windows, particularly the windows that are going to be carrying light. So isn't it quite remarkable how when you do that, just how the definition of those, I want to move those lines across here because there's actually like a little railing across the top there. There's also just a hint of some chimneys there as well. Draw those lines down. So I'm getting making the outline of the building and some sort of distinctive lines. Easier to do when it's not a night scene, but what I want to do is just make sure that I've got some distinct lines. Okay, so we're nearly there. I'm saying that for me as much as for you. Okay, grand. Now, I'm happy with that. Going to put my toady little signature in the corner. Next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put my stampers on. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to come back when that's done, and we're going to put on the first layer of a wash. Okay, so I've got my stampers on. I'm happy with the drawing. I've kept it nice and loose. Tonight, or what we're using is the watercolor, the Winsor Newtown watercolor paints. So what I'm going to do first of all, I'm also using a number 6 pointed wash by Rowney. It's an Aquafina. So I'm going to take 3 big lifts of water, and I'm actually going to first of all put down a wash of the blue in the sky, because we're not quite at night time, so we're getting to a really kind of a dusky time in this picture. So I'm taking the French ultramarine. Shouldn't be mixing that on top of the paper. If you can see though, it's a good hack. Once you have a cloth, you can just use it to soak up any of the colors that have escaped and gone onto your page. So I'm just doing this so that you can see what I'm doing. And then I'm taking a real kind of a Payne's grey. Okay, so we're going to take this nice dark colour. Actually, do you know what? We're going to change what I had initially said we would do, because I really want to demonstrate how I would tackle really just the evening sky. So let's just assume that the night sky is much darker. And what we're going to do is we're going to observe and look at the reference image and see, okay, where is there any light coming through? So I'm going to first of all notice that to go in closer there with such a full brush, I'm moving my hands down to the neck of the brush, and I'm going to leave these areas white here. And then I'm going to keep looking, and I'll look that whole section there has no light in it. And then this section down here, all of the windows are lit. So again, I'm going to move down. It is much more difficult whenever you have a full brush. The less water that you have on the brush, the easier it is to control and with more accuracy give the sections that you want to be darker. So the first wash, and we're just gonna just sort of move it across gently, leaving that section ever so just a little bit lighter. Okay, so we're covering right over here and right down the side of the building. Okay, so, and I'm gonna likely need to mix much more of the color, so there's no light on this section here. Again, observing where all of this is, and let me move this across here so it's out of shot and you can see what's going on. So I'm gonna mix some more. Let me move the water pot over here. Okay, so I'm gonna mix some more of what we already had there. So it's taken the ultramarine, some of the lamp black, and then this, which is it's a real Payne's grey. Okay, so, and then we're looking across here, back to the reference image, and looking to see now on this side there's actually quite a lot that's lit, and I want to not miss those areas. So we are putting the same color all over this. This is our first wash. Get my little flicks in. Okay, and I'm looking across here. Okay, I'm content now that I know where the light is. So I'm just going to continue now to put the first wash down. Now the building is not the same color as the sky, but what we're going to do as we build up these layers, you're going to see how we build up effectively a night scene, and it's a very, very simple way of doing it. With watercolor, one of the unique things about it is you need to use the paper. I don't know really why they tend to include whites in a watercolor set. On a very, very rare occasion, I might use it, but never to it's more from my point of view to mix a color rather than to aid mixing a color rather than to try and make an area of a watercolor white. So we're just gonna get this down here. And they've got the bush there. And that little section that's darker there. Okay, and I'm gonna lift the rest. I'm gonna make sure it drops on because I want it really, really nice and covered. And that is the first layer. That's what I want to do. So I'm going to get that dry now, and then we can move on to the second layer. Okay, that layer is now dry, and you can see that I have some sort of drying effects and cauliflowers and all sorts of things, which I actually love because that's the way watercolor is. I am not looking for this to be perfect. I am long past that, and I just want to enjoy this process. So now I am taking some of the umber, and then I'm going to take some more of that really kind of rich, very blue Payne's grey. I'm going to add more of the brown into that. I'm actually going to take some yellow ochre as well and mix that in. Okay, and it's quite a muddy colour because that's the colour of the building. I've switched to a 3/4 flat wash in my beloved Dealer Rowney Simply range, and what I'm going to then do now is I'm going to bring that colour in and move it right across here. So I'm going to move it right, so staying within in the lines of the building now. So this is now obviously layer 2. Let's take that wee lie down. I'm using the corner of the flat edge, which I absolutely love. Do you want to get me started about flat edge brushes and how absolutely wonderful I think they are? And we're just going to nice and loosely cover the entirety of the building with that. Now I'm going to go and do this, and then we're going to save some time and come straight back and add the next layer. So the second layer has now been applied. I wanted to show it to you before I dry it off, just to show you what I'm doing. Also, in certain areas, I'll use my brush as the pointer. I deliberately went over because those windows are actually darker than the building. So I thought let's keep building up the layer. So let's get this one dry and we'll move on to layer 3. Okay, so layer 3. Now, what I want to do with layer 3 is I really want to consolidate what I've done here. So I'm going to add in, I've mixed a richer version of this second layer color, and for the windows that I went over, this time I won't go over them again, and I'm going to do this right across the entire building again, just to sort of firm up that color of the building at nighttime, or that shade of the building at nighttime. Now, if you notice, I haven't started to touch the bush at the front. I don't know whether I will or not. I'm still, jury's out for me on that one as to whether I continue to do that. I'm going to keep the color moving across here. I really want to just, stay with me while I just do this bit of a section here. I'm just noticing little areas that I maybe want to leave just a little bit lighter, because I've already got that now, that second layer to work with underneath. And we're just going to continue to move this across into the main body of the building. And let me get this little section complete here. And it just really, as I said, I like that word consolidate, because it really does firm up the work that we've done so far. And I love working with nighttime shades because they're so different. They're mixes and colors that we would never really find anywhere else. And I'm gonna just put a cheeky wee line in there, because actually, as I'm looking at those windows, there is areas where that shade is appearing in even the parts of the window that are actually lit up. And as we go through with windows, the key that I found with windows is actually observing the colors that are there. If we can capture them, then we're going to have a convincing window. Okay, so I've got now this side done here. Now what I want to quickly do is just show you what I'm doing with the trees. So with the trees, I'm just layering up ever so slightly. Notice how I'm using the flat edge brush. This is where, can you tell how much I absolutely adore a flat edge brush? Moving a flat edge brush around, and different, amounts of water on the brush as well, just really gives us so much what it gives. I can't even get my words out. It gives you that idea of just branches and different shapes and things, and it just works so well. Okay, I'm going to go and finish this bit, get it dried off, and then we'll move on to the fourth layer. Now that's it dry. So we've done first, second and third layer. Now we're on layer 4. What we're going to observe in layer 4 is we're going to look at some of the darkest parts of the building. So this is just a simple straight lamp black. And I am just drawing it across just some sections where I've noticed that it's dark. Now what I can do is I've created effectively a bit of a river there. So I can just lift some of the paint, take the corner of the flat edge brush and just drop it along there, and it'll stay. Okay, now what I'm going to do as well is the windows on this side, and actually there's just a little part here of the building that's that bit darker. So I'm just going to notice that. And then also these windows here. Now this is really, there's too much water on that brush, so too much paint on that brush, or it's too liquidy. So too diluted maybe is the better word. So I'm just dropping in, just in that little section there, just those areas where the windows are really black, really dark, darker than the exterior of the building. So just dropping that in and noticing that right across there on all those windows. Now there is a little bit of a curtain there, so let me leave a little bit of space for a curtain. move across there. And then just a little tad here as well, okay? So I'm just checking as I look there, is there anywhere else? Now it is just noticing that wee little section in there, a little bit darker there, and there's just a tiny little bit there. Okay, so we've just got those little lines. Now, what we can do is they're going to dry all by themselves. I can actually at this point as well, which is quite nice to show. I've just hinted that there's a tree on the left-hand side, but we've got this tree on the right-hand side. So I'm cleaning off the brush. I've picked out the big 3/4 flat shader again, and I'm loading it up. And I just want to do a third layer on just a little bit of the trees, and I can use some of the corner of the brush, and that's just going to create that little bit more depth, and you just giving a nod. I like using that phrase, giving a nod to something that's there. So that's enough for that. And then really where we come to is the lovely place where we're actually going to begin to put in some of the colors of the lights that are going on. So what I think I'll do is I'm going to switch across from the Winsor Newtown, and I'm going to move to the Daniel Smith's because it has two different yellows, both of which I imagine I'm going to use. So we've got the Hansa Yellow Light and we've got the Hansa Yellow Deep, and there's also some raw sienna light there too. So what I want to do is take the little flat shader, this little brush here, little flat shader, and I'm going to just get some of the light Hansa Yellow. Now, what I'm going to need to do is get some fresh water. So let me go and do that. Bear with me one second. Now, we've got our fresh water. Okay, so that's not going to, the muddiness of the colours we used before are not going to influence the colours that I'm mixing now. So I'm just mixing both of these colours together, and we're going to see what we find here. And we're going to look around and see, okay, where can these colors go? So this is layer 5, and with this layer we've come to the place where we want to capture the lights that are going on. So I've got this color and I'm happy with it initially, and I'm just looking to see where that color might be and really just dotting it around where I see it. So this is layer 5. And I'm just carefully looking around, checking where it might be, and just noticing anywhere that I think that it is, and adding it in. So with windows, as I said already, super duper important that we do that. Now I want to mix a little bit of a richer color now. So I'm just adding in a little bit of, let me get this color right, the Pearl Scarlet. And noticing any areas where it actually is. So notice that the colors are changing as we go down here. And just in certain areas, that color is now starting to appear. Now, what I can also do is let those colors mix a little bit together, which is a good technique to use. And just add those in and just see, are there places where that can be added in and bring benefit. A pinky tone across the top. Okay, what I'm going to do is dry that so that we can then continue to move on with adding in this color. The other thing that I want to do actually just before I go and dry this off is mix a little bit of a color that's going to give me some of the highlight on the light falling on the pavement. Now, it's going to take me a minute to figure out what that color is. Like I said before in one of my other videos, you have to notice what the color is to be able to mix it. And if you can't notice the color, then you're not going to be able to find it. So I think I may have found it here, but let's just see. Yeah, I think that's good. So the pavement is sitting at an angle. So I'm just going to let that fall just like that. And what I do want to do, let's just do a flick of that color there. Okay, let's get that dry and we'll move on to layer 6. Right, that's now dry. So we're now on to layer 6. What I've done is I've mixed a much richer version of this yellow, which I'm just going to move around where I'm seeing it in the painting. And because we're now building up the layers of this, that's going to come across quite nicely. And with light, particularly at night time, it's good to have a really rich color. So I'm just looking right across to see where this color might be, and it's going to be a good starting point to mix from as well. So that, let me see, so I'm just going to take that from the color that we had used for the just the light falling there onto the pavement, and this is just a bit of a darker color actually, and I'm using the corner of the flat edge brush just to give a little bit more information than just what we've seen before. So okay, and also these, I've left these ones here, these are really quite subtle, nice subtle, really quite a peachy shade coming through in these windows, and that one's a little bit darker on that side, so I'm just going to darken that down a little bit, bring it across here. Okay, and this one on this side, again, just kind of hinting at that. And then this one here is exactly the same. This one is really, really very bright. It's probably the brightest, one of the brightest points in the picture. So there's just a few sort of almost shapes coming through with this one, and then the rest of it really is white. Just drawing that across there, and I want to see, is there anywhere else where these kind of darker tones are? Yeah, I've seen that across here and across here. I'm just looking around, noticing what actually is going on. And the drawing is really one of the best times to begin to notice, okay, so what shapes are there? Where is the light falling? What color is actually happening in these windows? What color am I going to need to mix? I like keeping the paint and working from the paint that I have, so that I'm not wasting. That's quite important to me, and therefore I tend to mix from the colors that I have in my palette, and really develop the colors that I've mixed, and work from that space. And I think it's quite a good technique for learning more and more about how to mix colors as well. Just gonna get those lines. Now I think this painting I'm starting to realize that we're coming to the end of this painting, and I have to say I'm quite pleased where we've landed. And a lot of it is, as I said before, is trusting the process. At different points you're going to be going, oh my goodness, where's this going? Let me see. Just looking at it now, just stepping back. The only thing that I want to do is to show how you can add in a little bit of white ink, which can be really beneficial just for giving you the hint of some of the frames here in these windows across here. The other thing that I want to do just in looking at it is I've noticed that these windows are actually, they're that darker. Now I'm going to go back to my Winsor Newtown palette for this, because it has that blue, that rich dark blue. I'm going to add in a little bit of black into that just to darken it down a bit. But that is present up in these windows, so I really want to get that, to notice that. Now, the only thing I want to do is take that right to the edge and leave that little gap. Okay, so what I'm going to do now then is I'm going to go and get my white ink, and I'm just going to show you how you can add that with a dip pen, and then we're done. So we've got our white Winsor Newtown ink, so just give it a wee bit of a shake, and we're going to get it open. And normally what you find is whenever you open the Indian ink, just needs a little pop to, oh, and another pop as well, 2 layers of bubbles there. So I've got this little dip pen that I got in Port Erin in the Isle of Man. It's a great job. So I want to load up just to about where the hole of the nib is. And so we've got that. And what I want to do is I'm looking along to see, okay, is there anywhere where I want to try and capture just very, very subtly. And the other thing is it doesn't work like Tipex, so it doesn't stand out, you know, mega bright. I'm just conscious that I don't want it to load up too much. I'm just getting to observe the PVC window frames here. Just don't want to overload the nib. So I'm just putting on as much as I need there, and if I need to get more, that's okay. And the more pressure that I apply, then the more ink is put down onto the page. But it's a very effective way, particularly with a night scene, of just observing some little lighter parts. Now I'm not colouring in any massive areas by any stretch. The other thing is that there are little bike racks that are just along here. Add them along there, and just looking to see, is there anywhere else? And I think no, that's all that I want to do with that. So there you are. There's the very simple way of painting a night scene. It initially just starts with the bravery of really covering the whole thing over, and apart from the areas that you know are going to be the brightest, and just working with that and building up on the layers, because whenever watercolor is dry, it is almost 100% waterproof. I underpinned it with a very simple and easy drawing, and here we are, Stranmillis at night.
I hope you enjoyed painting the building at night with me. I hope you enjoyed the step-by-step process, and it hopefully didn't come across that I was trying to be too pernickety and trying to stay so rigidly within the lines, and I was just enjoying putting down the different washes, and I edited out certain things. I just gave a nod to the tree that was on the left hand side, gave a little bit of detail on the right, was considering putting the bush at the front but thought that would be too dominating in the picture. I removed the van, and I just made some choices about composition. You can do that too. You're the artist, so you get to remove people from it, put people in, add in trees, take away trees, put cars in, take cars out. You have permission to do those things, and it's really important that you've the confidence to just jump in and do that. So please take your pen and your watercolor and jump in, and why not try doing a building at night? Remember the process of layering up, watercolor being waterproof, nearly totally waterproof when it's dry. Layer it up, think it through, plan, but most of all, be patient with yourself and enjoy the process. Thank you so much for watching this video. Do like and subscribe. Any suggestions of further videos, just let me know, but it's been great to have you with me as I've been painting, and see you soon.